Well, hi guys. Coach Jerry here at the Protocol Strength and Conditioning in Tucson, Arizona, and welcome to the October Mobility Warm-Up. Well, we made it. We survived the summer, the fall season is upon us, and in our tradition here, we begin with what we call the cold weather warm-ups. So why is this important? There's been this weird observation that I've had, and I've had it for a number of years now, and I don't know if this is an Arizona thing, but it seems like when the weather goes from warm to cold, our bodies seem to go through this weird adaptation where there's an unusual amount of stiffness that we experience that we may not necessarily experience at other times of the year, especially not during the warm months, but also like once our bodies are more adapted to the cold weather, it seems to not be as much of a problem. So an example of this is there seems to be a correlation between the month of October and what I call weird injuries. Weird injuries would be like I get a phone call like, hey Jerry, I can't come to class today because I tweaked my back putting my toothbrush away wrong this morning, or it's something silly like that. Our bodies seem to do something strange. So why am I sharing that with you? The reason is because we get spoiled during the summer. We basically just come in here, our bodies are basically warm. We still do our joint mobility because it's just part of our rhythms of training, but the warm-up is generally not taken as seriously. I mean, I know speaking for myself, I tend to not take my warm-ups nearly as seriously during the summer months. So as we get into October, I would highly encourage you to take your warm-ups way more seriously. I would also encourage you to think about warm-up as being thoracic spine mobilization. One of the biggest issues that we tend to feel with the cold weather is that our back gets stiffer than normal. The discs in your spine on cold mornings, they don't seem to want to get moving as fast. So Dr. Stu McGill recommends that one of the simplest things to do is about a 5 to 10 minute walk. So if your schedule affords you that ability prior to training, you should totally do that. If you know your back runs stiff, one of the simplest things you can do when you first roll in here is you can put a moderate amount of weight on a sled and run the sled up and down the turf a little bit. Just that little bit of locomotion has a tendency to help out. So that's optional. It's not part of the warm-up, but I always take a moment as the weather changes here in the month of October to share that with you guys. So with that whole thing out of the way, let's go ahead and walk through this warm-up. As I mentioned, the main objective of this warm-up is to really be focused on mobilizing through the T-spine. We're going to begin with an exercise called the rolling 45. The rolling 45 is basically the very first move of the Turkish get-up. It's coming up onto your elbow, except what we're going to do is we're going to put that into motion like we would do in joint mobility. So the rolling 45 just looks like this. So I'm just focused on getting that T-spine mobilization. As I switch hands, I switch feet. And we're going to be doing this not for reps, but for time. We're going to go for 1 minute. Once we get to the 1 minute mark, I'm not watching the clock, so I'm just going to pretend. Once we get to the 1 minute mark, we're going to go right into whichever side we are working on into a full empty Turkish get-up. If you are working one of the Turkish get-up regression programs, you can do whatever your version of the first part of the Turkish get-up is. From there, we're going to go right into side B and do our Turkish get-up on the other side. So that is the first move. Rolling 45s for 1 minute into one empty Turkish get-up per side. The next movement is what we call the figure 4 roll. Now, if you have trouble with your knees, this might be a very challenging movement to do, so I want to show different levels of it. The figure 4 position consists of me sitting with one leg tucked under, the other leg is out in front, and I want to give myself a little bit of space because we're going to be moving forward and out of this position. If your knees and your hips and this position in general really bother you, this is what level 1 of this looks like. We're going to alternate from one side of the figure 4 to the other side of the figure 4. And as you work these back and forth, you're just going to feel a little bit of a wake-up call in the abs and a little bit of thoracic mobility. I'm just moving from one sit bone to the other sit bone. If this works okay for you, we're going to use this motion to go into the tall kneeling position, which is it's basically the middle of a Turkish get-up. So I'm going to press out of this hand, come up to a tall kneel, have a seat, and do the same thing on the other side. Maybe you can do it without your hands. If that's working for you and your knee allows for a lot of deep flexion, we're going to do the same thing, only without coming up. We're going to go forward. So I'm going to push off this back hand and I'm going to roll underneath this bottom foot. Again, make sure this front leg is out far enough so when you come forward, this heel stays on the ground. So you can see I've got a lot of mobilization going on here. I've got ankle mobility, knee, hip. I've got knee on this side. There's quite a bit going on here. And then I'm going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. And we're going to alternate back and forth. And again, maybe you can do it without your hands. So the finished product just looks like this. And that's the figure 4 roll. Now we're going to get into some fun stuff. This is the spine rock. Now, some of you may have backs where this does not feel particularly good. If you cannot roll back onto your back without pain, possible red flag. That's too much to go into on this video. But if that's the case, please talk to your instructor about some alternate methods of doing this. But with the spinal rocks, we're just trying to restore some of that childhood joy that we used to have. Remember when you used to be able to just roll around on the ground, no problem, and it was fun? So we're going to have a seat. And the movement of all the spinal rocks involves that T-spine mobilization. So I'm bringing my chest up and my chest down. T-spine mobility is not shouldery, it's center of the body. We're going to inhale as we push up, exhale as we come down, and once we're in this position, we're just going to roll like a little roly-poly bug back onto your back and come right back up to seated. When you come back to seated, open the chest and inhale, exhale, and roll back. If you want some more core work, let go of your knees with your hands. If you want even more core work, when you come up, don't let your heels touch the ground. If you want even more core work, when you roll up, don't let your heels touch the ground, kick your legs straight and go into boat pose from yoga. You do you. But that is the basic spine rock. The next spine rock is what we call plow to toe touch. So the toe touch is pretty simple. It's laying here with your knees straight and touching your toes. Some of you are not going to be able to touch your toes. You might have to touch your shins, whichever works. You may also notice as you do this drill, your toe touch will improve. A quick note, be careful not to bend too much in your back. Try to lead with your chest first into the toe touch, even if it means not getting as far. Now, let's talk about plow. Not everyone is going to have the same plow. Depending on a wide variety of factors, mostly your mobility, your plow may only look like this. Some of you might be able to go legs parallel, looks like this. Some of you may have full plow. I'm recording this, it's not super early in the morning, but this is really my first movement of the day. We'll see if I have full plow or not, maybe, maybe not. Full plow consists of putting your toes onto the floor over your head. Ah, looks like I have full plow this morning. That's good. Regardless of which option you choose, when you roll out of it, open your chest on an inhale, exhale and fold. So let's talk about the breathing. Exhale as you push back. Inhale, open. Exhale, fold. One more quick note about full plow. If you crank on your neck when you pull back into plow, you've gone too far. You should feel this in your thoracic spine. There should be no jamming in your lower back, no jamming in your neck. Do not force this into pain. I've actually been practicing these a little bit for the past week or so. So normally when I first start doing these after a break, I do not have full plow. So this was kind of a pleasant surprise this morning. But that's plow to toe touch. The next spine rock is what we call the butterfly. Now there's two versions of the butterfly. We call it butterfly narrow and butterfly wide. I didn't know what else to call it. The difference between narrow and wide is ratio of heels to butt. So if I bring my heels far from my butt and I fold into the butterfly position, I'm going to feel that mostly on the outside of my hips. if I pull my heels very close to my butt, first of all, I can't fold nearly as far, but now I feel that on my inner thighs. I'm going to turn so the camera can catch the position here, but it's literally the butterfly. For those of you who struggle with the spine rock, this is the hardest of the spine rocks because you don't have your legs as counterweight. If that is the case and you cannot roll in this position, you can simply do what they call the 100s, where I'm just flapping my legs and just giving myself some gentle mobilization. And if you're going to do this option, same thing as the rock, do a few with your legs, with your heels far away from you, so you can feel that in your hips, and do a few with your heels close to you, so you can feel it in your inner thigh. The rock looks like this. You'll notice when I come out of it, I'm still going to have that inhale open to exhale fold. Exhale back, inhale open, exhale fold. That's the butterfly rock. The last mobilization is a compound mobilization. So there's going to be a number of moves to this, and I'm going to teach through them individually, but when we're done, we're going to piece them all together. Notice I'm turned the other way on my mat. Now we're going to be using the mat for our knees. So I'm going to have a seat just behind it. My feet are going to be just outside of shoulder hip width apart, and I'm going to drop the knees to one side. We call this the 90-90 position or the Z-sit. So my heel is touching my quad here, and I'm just getting some internal hip rotation. A lot of us really struggle with this, and also some of us have some asymmetries where internal hip rotation is much better on one side than it is on the other. So let's just go ahead and start with some hip rotation. So I'm basically just like a set of windshield wiper blades. I might edit that out, I might not. Notice I'm trying to keep my hands glued to the floor behind me. So that's the internal rotation. The next step is from this position to drive our hips up. This is going to feel very similar to the second regression of the figure 4 fold, but it is slightly different because I'm coming from more of the shin box position and not the kneeling position from the Turkish get-up. When I push my hips forward, I'm going to feel a hip flexor stretch here in the front. We can do a couple of those together as well. So now when I push forward, I got the other hip flexor. Again, if this is working for you, maybe you can do it without your hands. Oh, that's a little stiff on me this morning. Maybe if I do a few, it'll feel better. Last, we're going to do 2 folds. One fold is going to be right over the shin that's on the side that I'm facing, and the second fold is going to be around the back. The biggest mistake that we see people make here is they do not go far enough. So the first fold over the shin is just over the shin. This is going to feel like the pigeon stretch. Got a nice hip stretch there. And then the next one, I'm going to fold over. So the mistake that we see some people make is they just basically go to the other side of their knee. And it's fine. You'll feel a little something there. But imagine my mat was dropped in the other direction. And I'm going to try to roll all the way over and get my nose to the center of that mat. When you fold in that position, you're going to feel that all across your back, and it's going to feel really good. Then you're just going to roll over and do the same movements on the other side, folding over the shin and folding over the back. If you'd like, you can add a spinal rock. I just noticed I've got a kettlebell that's a little too close to my head, so I'm going to practice good situational awareness and get those out of the way. So this is what that last movement looks like in real time. And that is the final movement. It's a shin fold to hip extension to hip stretch to T-spine fold. So guys, there you have it. That is the October mobility warm-up. One last note on this one. There's something really cool about the spinal rocks. I learned this originally from Steve Maxwell. This was something that he used for his jiu-jitsu guys, just to have them they use it as a warm-up to roll around on the ground. But one of the things that always fascinated me about not only the movements and Steve Maxwell himself, but just the nature. So Steve Maxwell, I want to say now is in his mid-70s. He was 58 when I met him. And I was super impressed with how well that guy moved. First of all, from the neck down, he looked 20. I mean, he was six-pack ripped. He was an avid kettlebell enthusiast. He was a Brazilian jiu-jitsu guy. And he moved around like a little kid. And I was so impressed with that when I first met him. The thing that I think about with the spine rocks is, like, for us, this stuff might seem really, really easy. But like, imagine like an elderly parent or an elderly grandparent trying to maneuver the ground this easily. There's a lot more core work to these movements than what may originally meet the eye. So I hope you guys find these warm-ups valuable. I hope you enjoy them. This is something that I do practice at other times of the year, like if I come in and my back is really stiff. This is especially that last one where you put all those moves together. If I come in to train and I'm in a little bit of a hurry, sometimes I'll just get on the turf and do that move for sets and reps until my back feels good. Speaking of sets and reps, I will have some suggested reps on the board as well as the description below. But really, this is one of those warm-ups that is pretty fast to do. So you can do more reps or less reps of something that is feeling stiff on you. If you're coming in first thing in the morning and you're feeling really beat up, you can, or even during the day, if you've been at work sitting behind your desk all day, you may need more reps of certain moves than others. So I would encourage you to edit the reps to accommodate what you need. So guys, thanks again for watching our channel. Happy October, and we'll catch you again soon.